What's up, music lovers? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel, and today we are doing the 6th episode of a series that I like to call Artists That Deserve More Love. Like with all the episodes in this series, these can be musicians or composers that have millions of followers and careers lasting decades, or they can be songwriters that just have 20 followers on Spotify. Whatever the case is, you're really missing out by not knowing their music. And I'm really excited about this episode because I'm going to be talking about 3 composers here on YouTube that all have a similar kind of medieval-esque style of writing and kind of style of music they make, but they all manage to bring their own unique flavor to that genre. They're also all really big and successful, way bigger than my channel or my music is, but far from being household names, so I figured I can talk about them. By the way, if you want to change that, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. But given that they're just really successful, it doesn't really make too much of a difference because they still deserve more attention. The whole reason behind the series is just to have an excuse to talk about amazing music that is sort of more off the beaten path. With all that being said, this is going to be sort of a rapid fire episode of the series because I have about 25 more minutes left on this SD card and I really don't feel like having to change it mid-video. So without any further ado, let's just go. And the first artist in this episode I'm going to talk about are composer brothers, I think they're brothers, Brandon and Derek Fletcher. These two compose ambient and world songs based around different concepts like sad medieval music or epic fantasy music. And here on YouTube they have around 180,000 subscribers to their YouTube topic, which is undoubtedly a result of their insane work ethic. They have pumped out around 800 songs over the course of 10 years. Something that I really like about these guys as musicians is that they're composing with MIDI instruments, and for those of you that don't know, MIDI instruments are basically digital instruments. You'll play into a keyboard that's hooked up to a computer, and then you'll tell the computer, make this sound like a violin or an oboe or what have you. And instead of trying to make these instruments in their songs sound exactly like the real thing, they kind of lean into the fact that they are composing with MIDI while still trying to make them sound a little bit like the actual instruments, and it just creates this really cool, unique sound. It's just really nice to see someone embrace MIDI instruments while still making folk music. I also like how for most of their songs they have a very solid framework. They will start out with a simple melody, add different harmonies and add different rhythmic motifs underneath before taking that melody and maybe changing it to a different key or moving it up a bit or doing something so that the song stays interesting, while still having this framework so that their songs all sound like they belong together. It's just a great combination of sounding unique while also being interesting, sounding familiar while also giving you something new to look forward to. The style of their songwriting just gives them a distinct flavor that you can't really get from anyone else. These guys just make really great music, especially if you're reading, studying, or planning to have like a Dungeons and Dragons or Magic the Gathering night. Flip these guys on in the background. Some of my favorite tracks by the Fletchers are Fog Hill, Merlin Study, Red Dragon's Inn, and Forsaken Garden Palace. See what I mean when I said that their names are really specific and they write music for very specific vibes? But those are all really good songs, so if you want to check these guys out, that's where I'd recommend starting with. But as I said before, they have close to 1,000 songs, so if you start digging into their discography, you're sure to find something you'll like. The second composer I'm going to talk about in this episode is Adrian Von Ziegler. Adrian Von Ziegler creates a similar style of music to the Fletchers, but where the Fletchers sort of go all out on their MIDI sound, Adrian Von Ziegler does an amazing job of blending MIDI instruments with real instruments, it seems like, or at least mixing MIDI instruments in a way so they sound incredibly real. Of all the composers in this episode, Adrian Von Ziegler is definitely my favorite. That's not taking anything away from the other two. It's just that he has a special quality about his songwriting and about his music that is kind of hard to put into words. If you're interested in checking out Adrian Von Ziegler, I would say the best place to start is with his video 2 Hours of Celtic Music. It is what the title says. It's one of his first releases as far as I know, and I think it's still one of his masterpieces. Every single song on that video is just incredible, and those 2 hours fly by like they weren't even there when you're listening to it. I remember coming across that video when it first came out in 2013 and just being absolutely blown away by how good the music was. I really cannot sing the praises of Adrian Von Ziegler as a composer enough. I love all of his songs, but some of my personal favorites are Ode to the Fallen, For the King, Moon Song, and Prophecy. Land of the Free and Dance with the Trees are a couple other songs that are really good. He has over 1 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, so he is doing exceptionally well, but I still don't think $1 million is enough for the quality of music this guy puts out. Okay, so the third and final artist I'm going to talk about in this episode is Guitars and Dragons. If you've been following him for years, you might also know him as Lucas Kapuscinski. I'm so sorry, I'm sure I've really butchered that pronunciation. I apologize. He did change his name to Guitars and Dragons a few years ago, so that's what I'll be referring to him as. This guy is an incredibly talented classical guitar player who does acoustic versions of various songs here on YouTube. As the channel name Guitars and Dragons might imply, this guy does a lot of songs based around fantasy properties. He'll do covers of Lord of the Rings, The Witcher video game and TV series, and other video games. He's not just an incredibly talented guitarist, he's also really good at transposing these songs from their original versions into a version that can be played strictly on an acoustic guitar. And as a fellow guitar player, I'm just constantly blown away by how good of a musician and how good of a guitar player he is. So if you like fantasy music, if you like film scores, if you love acoustic guitar playing that is just really tasteful, go check this guy out. I'm sure you'll love him. And so that's going to be it for this rapid fire episode of Artists That Deserve More Love. If you think this channel deserves more love, please feel free to like and subscribe. I know that's a cliche to ask, but it really does help the channel grow, and I greatly appreciate it, so thank you in advance for that. Let us know in the comments what you think about these artists and these composers. Had you heard about them before? Have you gone and checked them out? Do you like this kind of quasi-medieval-esque modern rendition of traditional music genre? I don't know exactly what to call it. I love it. Let me know what you think. Like always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you at the next video.